Now I don't want to overdo this, so I'd rather do it in small chunks. So we'll take it out and we'll do a test. See how it kind of springs back to a certain degree. Right, so yeah, so it needs a little bit more. That's okay. Right, so these plates, I've not finished this one yet, have the same bend on them, so we'll just test fit them now and see how they look. Right, so there's a lot more trimming required, and the axle isn't quite perpendicular, but you can see these plates basically point backwards at the same angle, and when they're welded on, they'll be you'll be able to get to both sides of it with the welder. You can see I've just cut this roughly. I'm going to then take this out with a grinder to exactly match the profile of the axle. Right, before I bolt these plates on here and then tack weld them, I've got to ensure a couple of things. One is the axle is in the middle. So bearing in mind these chassis rails, the outer rails, do you remember when I welded them I clamped one on top of the other, so I know that they match each other in shape. So in terms of this direction then, the midpoint of this box section, it just lines up the outside of this weld on both sides. So I know I'm in the middle that way. I've measured my distance this way to make sure that with my big adapter I've got enough width here to get the mounts in for the end of the gearbox, and I can with about 1 centimetre to spare each side, so that's good, that's alright. So the next thing is the axle straight this way? We know we're okay that way for the moment, so what I did was I bolted these back on just temporarily, and I bolted them together in the middle like they would be in the original car. And then I've got this is like a measuring ruler that's clamped in place. That is the midpoint, so I want the join between these to line up with that arrow. So you can see at the moment we are pretty close, maybe just nudge to the left. Ooh. There we are, very close. So I'll put a set square on here and double check that that's in the middle. And then if that's the case, I'll try and clamp it in place. Now the other thing I've got here is an adjustable cable tie. These are quite handy. You put that little tab in and you can adjust the length. So when I adjust this, and the reason I want to do that is because I want this shaft coming out here to be parallel to the ground, not to the chassis but to the ground. So it's a bit of a guesstimate, but you can see we're pretty close. Probably needs to come down this end just a tiny bit, and obviously that matters because if I weld these plates on and then the whole thing needs to twist up or down, if it's just a case of a degree or so, that's fine before I finally drill the bolt holes, but it needs to be pretty close as I can get it. Right, an update on what I've been doing here. I've lined everything up and checked all my measurements 1,000,000 times, and then I've clamped these plates in position. I've tack welded here, here and here. Ignore this mess. To get this as clean as possible, I used like a metalworking flap disc. Then I used wire wheels in a Dremel, because unfortunately you've got these little pits. It's just like here, it's just the way it is. It's very hard to get the rust out of the little pits, but it's welding reasonably well. And then the idea is that the whole back axle, if you want to remove it, you'll basically undo the bolts holding these plates on. There's going to be some strengthening ribs added to this plate, but I'm just getting the basics done. So they're clamped in place, and these are 12mm M12 bolts, so you can reach in the end with your spanner to do the nuts up. These holes I've drilled by hand, which has taken a while. I mean, the way I do it, I can't think of any better way, is I start with like a a 4mm drill bit, and then I work my way up in 0.5mm sizes or 1mm sizes up to M12. It takes a while, but you can do it. Well, I have to be honest, I took it up to about M10 with the electric drill. That's a mains powered one, not a battery powered one. And then I cheated. I took it up the last bit to take the M12 bolt using one of these what do you call them, tungsten carbide bits in a Dremel. And that just allowed me to go round and round and round until the bolt just fitted through, because it was getting a bit much for my old electric drill. Right, I've welded to these removable plates. I've welded this curved piece, just taken from some 5mm thick box section, and then I'm going to put this piece here, which I'm shaping to exactly fit, so that when you remove the back end, the idea is that the frame rails will just slot straight back in, the bolt holes will just line up, and it won't distort or change. In other words, it just push it in, bolt it on and off really quickly, and it'll also stop these distorting at all by having this cross brace. While I do a bit more welding, you see I've done a section there, I've done a section there, just leave it cool. I might just do a little bit each day until it's all done. I don't know whether to put a C-shaped piece underneath and bring it right round so it can completely engulf the axle. It's not something people used to do in the day, but I might do that anyway, just to make it like super strong. But we'll see. Let's get all this done first. So you see the whole back axle comes off now, quite neatly. It's held on with 8 bolts. So I'm going to take it off now so I can get better access to weld these. Right, so I've tidied this up now. I've put some triangular pieces in here, and then this piece across here. Smoothed everything off, welded these in both sides of each plate, which went reasonably well. So the next thing will be to wait for the roll cage tubes to come, particularly the ones that go underneath. I'll flip the chassis on its side, weld the ones in that go underneath, form the floor for the driver, put it back, bolt the back end in, probably test fit the engine, make some engine mounts, and then go from there. I'll have a rolling chassis then at least. I just want to quickly show you one of my mistakes. I did say I would show my mistakes as well as my successes. Welded these on, and as you can see they bolt on. That's a pretty conventional way of doing it, so you can take the back axle off completely if you want to do anything to it. Of course, then I cleverly thought I'd put this bracing strut across here so that these would stay, in exactly the same position each time they were bolted on and removed. But then of course, what if you want to take the axle apart completely? Say you want to take one of these conical axle tubes off, you've just joined one side to the other. So I've just had to do this, which is basically make a plate that joins the two but allows them to come apart. So there you are, a little mistake, but reasonably easily fixed.